The day my daughter said, "Mommy, why is that lady sitting at Daddy's desk?" was the day I realized I had been the last person in the building to know. I had driven 40 minutes in rush hour traffic, with a thermos of soup going cold in the cup holder, and Maya buckled in the back seat, asking me questions about whether Daddy would want to eat with us, or whether we had to eat in the car again. I told her we'd eat together. I had been promising that for 3 weeks. My husband, Ethan, was the CFO of Meridian Group, a mid-sized healthcare consulting firm in downtown Chicago. I had been there exactly twice in 4 years of marriage. Once for his holiday party, once to drop off documents he'd forgotten. I wasn't the kind of wife who showed up unannounced. I respected his space. I respected his hours. I respected all of it, right up until the receptionist on the 14th floor looked at me with that particular expression. The one where someone knows something you don't, and is deciding how much to say. "Mrs. Caldwell," she said, and her voice had this careful quality to it. "Do you have an appointment?" I almost laughed. "An appointment to see my own husband. I'm his wife," I said. "I brought dinner. Is he in a meeting?" She looked at her computer screen, then at me, then back at her screen. He stepped away from his office for a moment. "If you'd like to wait in the lobby, I'll just leave it on his desk," I said. I already knew the way. Mrs. Caldwell. But I was already walking. The hallway on 14 had this long stretch of frosted glass panels before you got to the executive offices. I could see shapes through them, 2 people standing close together. I wasn't suspicious. I genuinely wasn't. I was tired and hungry and my feet hurt, and I just wanted to hand my husband a thermos of soup and watch his face do that thing it used to do when I surprised him. That brief, unguarded look of being glad. I pushed open the door to his office, and there she was, sitting at his desk, not across from it, but in his chair, the one I bought him for our anniversary, in a silk blouse, her heels on the floor beside her. Like she'd been there for hours. Like she was comfortable being there in a way I never quite was. Ethan was standing at the window. He turned around and the look on his face was not the one I'd been waiting for. "Tessa," he said. I looked at her. She looked at me. I looked at my daughter, who was tugging on my sleeve and pointing at the woman in the desk chair. "Mommy," Maya said. "Why is that lady sitting at Daddy's desk?" The woman, I would learn her name was Serena, that she was 31 to my 37, that she had been Ethan's executive advisor for about 8 months, picked up her shoes very calmly from the floor. She didn't look embarrassed. She looked inconvenienced, which was somehow worse. I said nothing. I set the thermos down on the credenza by the door. I picked Maya up. I walked back down the hall. Ethan followed me to the elevator. "Tessa, it's not, just let me explain." "Not here," I said, because Maya was right there, her face pressed against my shoulder, already picking up on something wrong even if she couldn't name it. "She's a colleague." "Ethan." I pressed the down button. "Not here." He stopped talking. The elevator came. We rode down in silence. Me, my daughter, and the cooling thermos I'd left behind on his credenza. I sat in the parking garage for 20 minutes before I started the car. Maya had fallen asleep in her car seat, which was lucky. I needed those 20 minutes. I didn't cry. That surprised me. I thought I would, but I didn't. I just sat there in the dark, under the fluorescent lights with my hands on the wheel, and I thought about the last 8 months. The late nights, the conference calls on weekends, the business trip to Phoenix that stretched from 3 days to 5, the way he'd started sleeping on the far edge of the bed, right at the margin of falling off, like he was trying to minimize the surface area between us. I thought about my father and what he would say. My father, Raymond Voss, built Voss Financial Group from a 2-room office in Evanston when I was 7 years old. He had 4 children, and he raised us all to understand one thing. You don't react, you respond. There is a difference, and the difference is everything. A reaction is what happens when you're not prepared. A response is what happens when you are. I called my brother first, not my father, my older brother, Nathan. "I need you to look into something for me," I said. There was a pause. Nathan knew my voice the way you only know someone's voice when you've shared a childhood with them. He didn't ask me if I was okay. "What do you need?" he said. "Ethan's firm. Meridian Group. I want to know everything about their contract structure, who's funding them, and whether any of our family's investment portfolio has any exposure there." Another pause. "How long do I have?" 48 hours, I said. "Done," he said, and hung up. Ethan came home at 11 that night. I was in the kitchen with a cup of chamomile going cold in front of me. I'd already put Maya to bed, already called my mother, already sat with the particular silence that a house gets when the person you married stops feeling like someone you know. He sat down across from me. He had the look of a man who had spent the drive home rehearsing. "Serena and I have been," he started. "I know what you've been," I said. "I don't need you to fill in the word." He was quiet. "What I need to know," I said, "is when it started, and whether it's over." He couldn't hold my eyes when he answered. "It started about 9 months ago." Was it over? He said he wanted to figure things out. He said he cared about our family. He said he never meant for this to happen, which is what people say when they want you to believe that things happen to them rather than because of them. I nodded at everything he said. I asked a few careful questions. I did not raise my voice. I did not throw anything. At the end of it, I told him I needed some time to process, and he looked relieved. Because relief is the thing you feel when the person you've wronged doesn't punish you immediately, even though it should probably feel like dread. I went upstairs. I lay in bed in the dark. I thought about Maya asking why that woman was at Daddy's desk. I thought about all the dinners I'd cooked and eaten alone. I thought about 8 months of my life moving forward while my marriage was moving somewhere else entirely. And I started making a list. My father picked up on the second ring. I heard from Nathan, he said. I wanted to tell you myself. I know. How are you? I'm fine, I said. I'm going to be fine. But Dad, I need to ask you something, and I need you to not say no before you hear me out. A pause. Then, go ahead. Meridian Group has 3 active contracts through Voss Financial's healthcare investment fund. 2 are in renewal stage. 1 is a new bid. Silence. I'm not asking you to do anything unethical, I said quickly. I'm not asking you to lose money. I'm asking you to take your time with the renewal decisions. Standard due diligence, extra scrutiny. The kind you'd give any partner during a leadership instability period. Leadership instability, my father said slowly. The CFO's personal situation has become complex. That represents risk to fiduciary partners. Another silence. Longer this time. You sound like your grandfather, he finally said. He used to say the same thing about people who mix their personal lives with other people's money. Is that a yes? I'll have our risk assessment team take a second look, he said, thoroughly, and without any particular rush. I exhaled. I love you, Dad. Get some sleep, he said. You sound like you haven't. Nathan called on the second day with what he'd found. Serena Alcott, that was her full name, I finally knew it, had been consulting for Meridian Group on a healthcare technology integration project. On paper, everything looked clean. But Nathan had done what Nathan does, which is pull threads. And one of the threads led to a patent filing. And the patent filing had a co-registrant. And the co-registrant was a subsidiary of a foreign medical technology firm currently under a federal advisory notice for data compliance concerns. How serious? I asked. Serious enough that if any of her tech recommendations were implemented in systems that handle patient data, Nathan said, Meridian Group could be looking at a federal compliance review. I sat with that for a moment. Does Ethan know? That's the question, Nathan said. Either he knows and didn't care, or he doesn't know and he's been blind because of. He stopped. Sorry, don't apologize, I said. Because of her. I looked out the window at the backyard. Maya's swing set was out there, a little rusty at the joints. I'd been meaning to have Ethan look at it for 2 months. Nathan, I said, can you put together a document? Everything you found, clean, sourced, professional. You want to send it to someone? I want to send it to everyone, I said. But I want to do it at the right moment. The right moment came faster than I expected. Meridian Group had their annual stakeholders luncheon the following Friday. It was the kind of event that mattered. Board members, institutional investors, city council representation, partners from 4 or 5 affiliated firms. Ethan had talked about it for months. It was where they were announcing 2 major new initiatives. It was, in his words, the most important professional event of his year. I knew about it because I had at one point been planning to attend as his spouse. I called my college friend June, who worked in healthcare compliance consulting, a different firm, no conflicts, and I asked her to review Nathan's findings. She came back to me in 24 hours. Tessa, she said, where did you get this? Is it accurate? If it's accurate, and it looks accurate, this is a significant exposure. The kind that doesn't go away quietly. Who should know about it? She gave me 3 names. A senior partner at a regulatory advisory firm, a journalist at the Tribune who covered healthcare industry, and a federal compliance office contact she trusted. You don't have to use all of them, June said. I know, I said, but I want to know I have them. 2 days before the luncheon, Ethan told me he thought we should consider separating. He said it carefully, sitting at the kitchen table, in the same chair where he'd sat a week earlier, and told me he wanted to figure things out. Apparently, he had figured them out. I think we've grown in different directions, he said. I think it might be healthier for both of us. And for Maya? I asked. He said he loved Maya more than anything, and this had nothing to do with that. Ethan, I said very quietly, I need you to think carefully before you start this conversation. Because once it starts, it doesn't stop. Do you understand what I mean? He looked at me the way people look when they think they know what something means and they're wrong. I think it's time to be honest with each other, he said. Okay, I said. Then let me be honest. I've spent the last 10 days being very, very careful. I have been quiet and I have been patient, and I have been giving you the time to make a different choice. But if you are telling me that you have already made your choice, Tessa, then I'm going to make mine. He didn't answer. His phone buzzed. He looked at it and I could tell from the half-second change in his face that it was her. Go ahead, I said. Take it. He left the room. I sat at the kitchen table for a while. Then I picked up my own phone and sent 3 emails. One to the regulatory partner, one to June's compliance contact, one to the Tribune journalist. Each email properly organized with sources cited. Then I called my brother. It's done, I said. Do you want me to be there Friday? He asked. I thought about it. Yes, I said. Bring Rebecca if she can come. The Meridian Group stakeholders luncheon was at the Langham in River North. White tablecloths, centerpieces with white orchids, the kind of room where people network quietly and everything looks very controlled. I wore the navy dress I'd worn to our rehearsal dinner. It still fit. I'd always liked how it fit. I had not told Ethan I was coming. I signed in at the registration table as Tessa Caldwell, spouse of Ethan Caldwell, CFO, because I was still, as of that morning, his spouse. The woman at the table gave me a lanyard and a program and a polite smile, and I took all 3. Nathan and Rebecca were already inside, near the back. I found them easily. Anything yet? I asked. Nathan looked at his phone. The Tribune piece went up this morning. Financial Regulatory contacted Meridian's board counsel yesterday. June said her compliance contact has already requested documentation. I nodded. How are you? Rebecca asked. Ask me in 2 hours, I said. The room was filling up. I spotted Ethan near the front in conversation with 2 board members and a city alderman. He was laughing at something. He looked comfortable. He looked like a man who didn't know yet that the floor beneath him was different than it had been a week ago. Serena was there too, off to one side, near the presentation screens, in a pale green dress. She was speaking to someone I didn't recognize. I didn't go to Ethan. I didn't make a scene. I circulated like a normal guest, said hello to 2 people I recognized from past events, accepted a glass of sparkling water. The program started about 20 minutes after I arrived. The CEO of Meridian, a man named Thomas Garrity, took the podium and began his remarks. New initiatives, growth target, strategic partnerships, the kind of language that means everything and nothing simultaneously. Then he introduced the Technology Integration Initiative, which was, he said, one of their most exciting developments. He mentioned the consultant who had spearheaded it. He said Serena's name, and at that moment, the man to my left, one of the institutional investors I'd recognized from a previous event, leaned toward his colleague and said, very quietly, "Did you see the Tribune this morning?" I heard his colleague say, "About the data compliance issue. Board's been fielding calls since 8 a.m. I set my sparkling water down. I didn't need to do anything else. I had already done it. But then Ethan saw me. He was scanning the room. Maybe looking for someone, maybe just looking, and his eyes found mine from across the tables and he went very still. The way you go still when you see something you weren't prepared for. I didn't look away. I held his gaze for a moment. Then I looked at Garrity, still at the podium, still describing the bright future of the Technology Integration Initiative, unaware of what was happening in the phones and inboxes of everyone in that room. Then Ethan looked at Serena, who had also seen me. Her face changed. Garrity finished his remarks. There was polite applause. Then one of the board members, I later learned his name was Arthur Pemley, stood up and asked for a moment of the room's attention. He said something about updated information regarding the technology partnership that the board felt obligated to address in compliance developments. Ethan was still looking at me. I picked up my program and my glass and I walked to where Nathan and Rebecca were standing. Let's go, I said. The fallout took about 3 weeks to fully arrive. Meridian Group quietly suspended the Technology Integration Initiative pending a federal review. 2 of the 3 contracts through Voss Financial's fund went through extended due diligence processes. My father had made sure of that. The 3rd contract, the new bid, was withdrawn. Serena Alcott's consulting contract with Meridian was not renewed. Ethan was not immediately terminated. He was, however, placed on administrative review, pending an internal investigation into what the board characterized as a lapse in due diligence oversight, whether he'd known about Serena's data compliance exposure, or simply been too distracted to catch it. The board's language implied they weren't sure which was worse. He came home from a long day of meetings 2 weeks after the luncheon and sat at the kitchen table in the same chair again. And this time he didn't look like a man who had rehearsed. He looked like a man who had run out of things to say. I didn't know, he said, about the compliance issue. I want you to know that, okay, I said. Did you know? When you came to the luncheon, I looked at him. I found out about it the same way everyone else did, I said. Through proper channels. That was true. Nathan had found it. June had verified it. The people I'd sent it to had published and reported it through their own proper channels. Every step had been entirely above board. Ethan was quiet for a long time. "What do you want?" he finally asked. "I want what's fair," I said. "For me and for Maya. I want a custody arrangement that actually puts her first. I want the house until she finishes middle school. That's 6 years. I want our financial accounts handled transparently, with a mediator, not through lawyers who are incentivized to drag it out." He looked at the table. "And then? And then we figure out how to be her parents without making her pay for our problems." He nodded slowly. He looked tired. He looked like a man who had made a significant series of choices and arrived at their destination. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know that doesn't. I know you are," I said. "It doesn't fix anything, but I know you mean it." Maya asked me, about a month after all of it, whether Daddy and I were still friends. We were in the kitchen. She was eating cereal. I was drinking coffee. It was a Tuesday morning, ordinary in every way except for the question. I sat down across from her. "Daddy and I love you very much," I said. "We're figuring out how to be a family in a different way." She thought about this, her spoon going in slow circles. "But are you friends?" I thought about how to answer that honestly, in a way a 6-year-old could hold. "We're working on it," I said. "Being friends with someone after things change is hard. But we're trying, because you deserve to have us try." She seemed satisfied with that. She went back to her cereal. I looked out the window at the backyard. The swing set was still slightly rusty at the joints. A few weeks ago, I had called a handyman and had it repaired. I had not waited for Ethan to do it. I had stopped waiting for a lot of things. The divorce was finalized on a Wednesday in November. My father drove me to the courthouse and waited in the hallway while I signed the papers. Afterward, he took me to lunch at a diner near his old Evanston office, the kind of place with laminated menus and coffee that comes in a pot, not a pour-over. We sat across from each other in a vinyl booth. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Like myself," I said, "which I haven't felt in a while." He nodded. He stirred his coffee. "Your grandmother used to say that the hardest thing about being wronged is not the being wronged part. It's the waiting, the time between when you know something is broken and when you decide what to do about it." She said that's where most people lose themselves. I thought about those 20 minutes in the parking garage. The cold thermos, the fluorescent lights. "I didn't lose myself," I said. "I know," my father said. "I could tell." He picked up his menu even though I knew he always ordered the same thing. "Next week, Maya's coming to stay with me for the weekend," he said. "She wants to make pie. Do you think she's old enough to handle the crust?" I laughed. It came out easy, which surprised me, that it could still come out easy. "She's been watching baking videos on YouTube for 2 months," I said. "She's probably better at it than both of us." My father smiled. "Good," he said. "Then she can teach me," we ordered. The coffee came in the pot. The diner was warm and loud and full of ordinary people having ordinary Wednesdays, and I sat there in the middle of all of it and felt, for the first time in a long time, like my life had room in it again. Room to breathe. Room to want things. Room to figure out, slowly and without rushing, what came next. Outside, through the plate glass window, Chicago was gray and bright at the same time the way it gets in November. That particular combination of cold sky and low sun that makes everything look a little sharper than usual. Like the city had just been washed clean. I wrapped both hands around my coffee mug. I had a meeting with a contractor on Thursday about the kitchen renovation I'd been putting off for 3 years. I had a parent-teacher conference on Friday. I had a weekend that was mine, actually mine, for the first time in longer than I could remember. The pie could wait. The swing set was fixed. My daughter was going to learn to make crust with her grandfather, and she was probably going to be better at it than anyone expected. That felt like enough. That felt, if I was being honest, like more than enough to start with.